Thank you for your comments on gbnews.com/your say as well. Keep them coming in. Lots making me howl during the break, and I'll get to them very shortly. Let's move on, shall we? Because another big question is that big tech punishing people again for serving the public, because Reform UK councillor Darren Grimes has claimed that Facebook has demonetised his own account because of his election to public office at Durham County Council. Of course, he's a Reform councillor. Let's speak to Darren Grimes now. Darren, great to see you, my old friend. I hope you're doing well as a councillor up in Durham. Apparently not so much, though, in the last couple of days. You've been demonetised. Are you skint now?
Oh, well, absolutely, Ben. Good to be with you. You can't say fizzy pop anymore, by the way. You've got to say fizzy soda now, so you've got to get with the programme, Ben.
Why is that? Why?
Well, look, I was elected, right, in May, as you well know. I left GB News. It was very upsetting to do, but look, I decided to put myself forward for election. And Facebook have turned around just now. We're in September now, obviously months on from that election in May. And Facebook are saying that their rules ban elected people from earning anything on their platform. So they've effectively cut me off. They've waited until now to do it. Now, why does that matter? It matters because they waited until I had challenged a moment of censorship from them, in which I had posted a post calling out the fascism that we've seen from parts of the pro-Palestine movement. So to me, the timing absolutely stinks of this movement. And Ben, you know, it's all well and good. People might laugh and say, oh, come on, Grimesy, a former television presenter. Yeah, I gave up a cushy life. A Durham councillor's salary, though, an allowance, is around £13,300. A member of Parliament is earning nearly £94,000. So, you know, there's no comparison, but Facebook are saying that their policy groups both of those things together, and I think actually there's something more at play here. There's something about censorship and demonetisation of those with a growing platform through a party such as Reform who are saying the wrong things.
OK, you can say, tell me to do one, Darren, by asking this question, but can I ask you how much you were earning from Facebook?
So not a lot, you know, effectively about the same as I would earn on a month from the council. But it was a nice top up that would sort of supplement the wage that, you know, I was obviously losing from the GB News salary. And, you know, Ben, I'm not saying this. People might think, oh, Darren, you're so privileged. You know, I grew up, as you well know, on a council estate here in County Durham, a single parent household with three people within that as far as children are concerned. The last thing this country needs is for politics to become exclusively for the preserve of the better off. People who don't understand what life is like in areas such as this. That's what I'm worried about, Ben. And I think this sort of platform, this sort of policy removal of people like me is actually more, it's about something else. It's about the removal of those with the wrong opinions.
Yeah, well, let me say, Darren, I've known you for years, of course. We did the Saturday 5 together. In fact, my first ever time on screen on GB News was on the Saturday 5, courtesy of you. So I've known you for a long time, and I know you're not in this for the money. As you said, you're here to serve the public. You wouldn't have left GB News to go and become a councillor if you were doing it for the money. But Darren, your situation defies the rhetoric we've seen from big tech in, I'd say this week even, where the likes of Google and YouTube have come out and said, sorry about what happened under Joe Biden's administration, guys. We were told to censor everyone and ban your accounts, but now you can come back. I mean, is that not true then?
Yeah, look, I think actually within the United Kingdom that there is a different approach. There is one that says that through Sir Keir Starmer and the Conservative Party's Online Safety Act, there is a move for censorship. Under Sir Keir Starmer banging up those who send out tweets and all the rest of it, you have to be more careful. You know, you are right. I gave up a national TV job to stand up for my patch, but Facebook basically say, if you're Owen Jones at The Guardian, well, you can monetize your evil politics all day long. But if you come from outside that bubble, in an area like this in the northeast of England, well, you get shut down. That, to me, isn't policy. That, to me, is bias. And because Facebook have taken that step, you know, I'm going to have to say, well, I'm not going to be posting as much on your platform. Instead, I'm going to be going on my Substack at darrengrimes.com and focusing on that instead, in which actually there isn't the ad hoc policy approach that Silicon Valley approves, basically to effectively assuage the concerns of the Labour Party, which I think has moved in a really totalitarian direction, especially given the advent of digital ID, Ben.
Yeah, oh goodness me, digital ID. I mean, let me ask you about, just before I let you go, Darren, and by the way, lots of viewers on your say saying, well said, Darren, we love you, you're a true patriot. I mean, your say is full of it. Go Dazza. Go Dazza. They love you, Darren. But before I let you go, before I blow hot air up you anymore, a quick word, please, on this brewing story, this brewing bombshell story involving Keir Starmer tonight. We're hopefully getting the details in the next half an hour. Massive questions over whether he avoided inheritance tax to do with his family and a piece of land he gave his mum and dad. If he's found to have avoided inheritance tax, as Angela Rayner did capital gains, do you think he'll go?
I think he ought to, because I think ultimately, Ben, you know, as a senior councillor within a local authority, what I'm focusing on is the fact that through their national insurance increases that you well know they hiked up, that actually as far as care costs are concerned, we've massively had to increase our budgets to ensure that we can actually care for the most vulnerable in society. So their knock-on effects of increase in tax have really put a burden upon the least well-paid. Some of them maybe even losing their jobs in other parts of the sector. So, look, what I would say is that you cannot be a tax-raising government and a tax-avoiding government at the same time, Ben. Hypocrisy, well, it's the one thing the British public hate more than anything else.
Darren, thank you, mate. I've missed you. Thanks very much for that. Appreciate it. Darren Grimes, Reform UK councillor up in County Durham, and of course, former GB News superstar. Let us know what you guys think about that. gbnews.com/your say. The love for Darren still pouring in. You guys miss him very much, but he's doing some sterling work up in Durham, according to his constituents. GB News has approached Meta for comment. Of course, Meta is the owner of Facebook, but we're yet to have a response. However, it's believed that their policy is that no one in political office gets to make money via their platforms, which would, of course, include Darren. Right, joining me back in the studio is my panel, political analyst Eric Ham and the deputy US editor at the Daily Telegraph, Connor Stringer. Eric, let's talk about free speech in Britain. As an American, what's your perception of free speech in Britain? Do we have it, first of all, do you think?
Oh, I think you do. And I think what we're seeing take place here in the United States is something very different, because in the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination, I think there have been those who think that things are changing as it relates to the idea of Facebook and being able to monetize, particularly when you are impacting policy that directly relates to Facebook. I actually think Meta did the right thing here, and I think it makes sense that given that you are having an influence on policy, it does make sense that you should not actually be able to monetize what you're doing, because it could have an impact on how it shapes your thinking and the moves that you make as it relates to policy.
That's a good point. That's an interesting point. And just on the free speech situation, are you saying, when you reference Charlie Kirk, are you suggesting, of course, that free speech is under threat here in the United States?
Oh, absolutely, it is. And in fact, we're seeing it play out every day.
Yeah. Courtesy of who? The Trump administration? Are you criticising them?
I'm not criticizing them, but I do believe what we're seeing from the Trump administration here in the United States, the fact that they are going after what they call to be the radical left, somehow suggesting that they were responsible for that killing. I think rather than allow law enforcement to play the situation out, I think what we're seeing here is, particularly when you look at the Jimmy Kimmel, the president made clear that he wanted that show, or he wanted Jimmy Kimmel removed from air because of what he said. He's back on air, but that did not stop the fact that the president actually admitted that he did attempt to use his levers of power as the president of the United States to actually silence Jimmy Kimmel.
I know he posted the Truth Social saying his racing sucked and wasn't funny.
And then we heard it from his FCC chair, Brandon Carr, who said it. And then the president, when Jimmy Kimmel went back on the air, said, why is he back on the air? And he said that he would certainly reach out to
I think he's allowed, Connor, the president, to say, this guy's not funny, I don't want him on air. I mean, is that using his power to put pressure on?
Look, I think absolutely he's got his right to free speech like everybody else in this country. I think that he's well within his rights also to have his opinion on what he enjoys, tasteful, and funny, and what he doesn't. I think what the difference is, and what we're seeing here between free speech and speech used to incite violence, and that's the issue at heart here. Our individuals who are making inflammatory comments that could be seen to be, inciting violence or causing other kinds of chaos. And that's what the Trump administration want to clamp down on, and that's the focus of the various policies that they're getting at.
Eric, you mentioned Charlie Kirk's alleged killer. I mean, it is pretty much fact that he was a deranged leftist.
Is it?
Well, yeah. I mean, the FBI put out. He had a trans boyfriend who dressed up.
But that is something that should actually play out in a court of law. And as we're talking about tamping down on radical speech that incites violence, you're actually right. That is something that can be problematic. But what we're seeing right now is the president is not saying this is speech that needs to be curtailed on both the left or the right. He's saying it's happening on one side, when even his own Department of Justice has put out a report that they pulled down off of their own website. They made clear that's not actually what's happening.
And I'll also say, Eric, as a Brit watching from abroad, you don't see the right wing. After Charlie Kirk's killing, you haven't seen entire cities being burnt to the ground, and looting and the burning of police cars and vehicles. As I said, cities being burnt to the ground in the wake of Charlie Kirk's killing. In actual fact, what happened was the complete opposite. At the memorial on Sunday, it was a holy experience. It was all about unity and looking forward and optimism. And Charlie Kirk's killer was a radical leftist. The guy, Thomas Crooks, who tried to kill President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, he was a leftist. The guy that tried to kill him on his Florida golf course was some raging leftist as well. They are more, I'd say, more prone to violence, political violence, than those on the right.
And I would say that you're wrong, and the reason why you're wrong is because the Department of Justice has said that 70% of the violence actually comes from a violent right-wing extremist. That's not me saying that. That's the Department of Justice that's saying that. And as far as those who attempted to assassinate the president and those who and the individual who's alleged to have assassinated Charlie Kirk, if in fact they are on the left, they need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And I think rather than weighing in on those cases, I think the president and everyone else should actually tamp it down and allow justice to play itself out.
Yeah, it was President Trump, just before we go to the break, President Trump, Connor, who said in the immediate aftermath of Charlie Kirk's killing that he wasn't interested about unity or bringing the country together. He said, I think the quote was, this is going to get me in trouble, but I couldn't care less about unifying the nation.
Yeah, which I think, look, as Eric pointed out, that doesn't help, does it? If you're trying to close the political divide in this country, you've got to have some kind of rhetoric that reflects that, and that's not hardly helpful, is it? I think we can both agree.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Connor. Thank you, Eric. You'll be back with me in just a sec.